There are two types of people in this world. Those who want a loyal companion that follows orders, greets them at the door with explosive energy, and treats them like the center of the universe. And those who prefer a roommate who watches them silently from the top of the refrigerator, unimpressed, observant, entirely uninterested in approval. If you already know which one you are, you also know this was never really about pets. Welcome to the complex, often misunderstood, and scientifically fascinating psychology of people who love cats. For decades, pop culture has reduced cat lovers to caricatures: the crazy cat lady, the quiet loner, the emotionally detached intellectual, the villain stroking a white Persian while planning something unspeakable. But these images were never about cats, they were about discomfort. Discomfort with people who don't perform connection the way society expects them to. Because modern culture is built around visibility, around enthusiasm, around being emotionally legible at all times. You're expected to show excitement, to prove attachment, to respond quickly, to mirror energy. And anyone who doesn't do that is treated as suspicious. Cat people quietly violate that rule, not by rejecting connection, but by redefining it. Science tells us that your preference for cats isn't random, it isn't a quirk, and it certainly isn't a sign of being antisocial. It's a signal, a biological and psychological fingerprint that reveals how you process emotion, how you regulate stress, how you relate to autonomy, and how your nervous system seeks safety. Cat people aren't drawn to obedience, they're drawn to coexistence. They don't want constant feedback, they want presence without pressure. They don't need to be adored, they need to feel regulated. So today, this isn't about admiring cute kittens or sharing pet stories, it's about decoding what your love for cats quietly reveals about you. We'll break down the personality traits that consistently separate cat people from dog people. We'll explore the evolutionary trick that turns a solitary predator into something that feels like family. And yes, we'll confront the unsettling theory that suggests your attachment to cats may not be entirely your own. So the question isn't whether you love cats, the question is why. This is the psychology of cat people. Pop culture has never known what to do with people who don't perform their emotions loudly. So it turned cat people into a joke. The crazy cat lady, the cold intellectual, the quiet villain with a cat on their lap watching the world from a distance. But these stereotypes didn't come from science. They came from discomfort. Modern culture is built around visibility, being expressive, being energetic, being constantly available. Emotion is expected to be public. Connection is expected to be loud. Presence is measured by responsiveness. If you don't react quickly, something must be wrong. If you don't display enthusiasm, you must be detached. If you don't seek constant interaction, you must be lonely. Cat people challenge this logic. They don't broadcast their inner world. They don't seek constant engagement to feel connected. And they don't confuse noise with intimacy. This makes them easy to misunderstand in a culture that equates emotional health with performance. But psychology tells us something important. The absence of constant expression is not emotional absence, it's regulation. Many cat people are deeply observant. They track subtle shifts in tone, posture, mood, and atmosphere. They may say less, but they notice more. And because they don't rely on overt cues to feel secure, they don't feel the need to prove connection through constant engagement. What pop culture framed as detachment is, in reality, selectivity. Cat people aren't avoiding connection, they're avoiding unnecessary stimulation. They choose environments and relationships that respect their internal rhythm. They prefer depth over frequency, meaning over volume, attunement over attention. And when you stop measuring social health by loudness, enthusiasm, or constant availability, the stereotype collapses. What looks like distance from the outside is often discernment on the inside. And not misunderstanding, quiet, persistent, and culturally reinforced, is where the myth of the cat person truly began. Psychologists often describe personality through 5 core traits: openness, conscientiousness,
extroversion, agreeableness, and neuroticism. The Big Five. When researchers compare people who identify as cat lovers with those who prefer dogs, clear and consistent patterns begin to emerge. Cat people tend to score higher in openness to experience. On paper, that means creativity, curiosity, and imagination. But lived from the inside, it looks different. It looks like a mind that doesn't settle easily for simple explanations. A mind that tolerates ambiguity, that questions norms instead of absorbing them by default. Cat people are often drawn to ideas, art, emotions, and perspectives that don't fit neatly into social expectations. They're more willing to sit with complexity, more willing to explore internal worlds, more willing to ask why instead of accepting because that's how it's done. They also tend to score lower in extroversion, and this is where misunderstandings begin. Lower extroversion doesn't mean social incompetence. It doesn't mean disliking people, and it doesn't mean isolation. It means energy flows inward before it flows outward. Social interaction costs more. Noise drains rather than energizes. Unpredictability creates friction. Constant engagement depletes internal resources. Cat people may enjoy others deeply, but in smaller doses, with more space in between. Research also shows slightly higher levels of neuroticism among cat people.
In psychology, this doesn't mean instability. It means sensitivity, a heightened awareness of internal states, a quicker detection of emotional shifts, a nervous system that notices stress early. This isn't a flaw. It's an early warning system. Cat people often feel overstimulation before others do. They register tension sooner. They sense environmental changes more quickly. From the outside, this inner life is mostly invisible. Cat people don't externalize their processing. They rarely announce when something overwhelms them. Instead, they adjust quietly. They seek calm, control, predictability. A barking dog, an unstructured social setting, constant demands for attention. All of these can feel intrusive to a nervous system that's already finely tuned. Cats fit this psychology perfectly. They don't impose themselves. They don't escalate energy. They move slowly, predictably, and with clear boundaries. For someone high in openness and sensitivity, that presence feels stabilizing. So when cat people say they just prefer cats, what they're really describing is alignment. Alignment between temperament and environment, between inner pace and external demands. And that quiet, complex inner world, the one that seeks regulation over stimulation, is the part most people never see. At a certain point, personality stops being the most useful explanation, because what separates cat people from dog people isn't just how they think or behave, it's how their nervous systems respond to the world. Many cat people have highly responsive nervous systems. They pick up on subtle changes in sound, in movement, in mood, in expectation. Their baseline isn't numbness, it's awareness. And in a world that's loud, fast, and constantly demanding engagement, that level of awareness can become exhausting. This is why framing the difference as a simple preference falls short. What's really happening is regulation. Some nervous systems regulate through activity, through interaction, through external feedback. They calm themselves by moving energy outward. Dogs are perfect for that. They initiate contact, mirror excitement, create structure, keep energy circulating. Other nervous systems regulate through stillness, through predictability, through the absence of pressure. They don't need constant stimulation to feel secure. They need environments that don't overwhelm them in the first place. Cats provide exactly that. A cat doesn't rush towards you to discharge energy. It enters the space slowly. It settles. There's a reason a cat, an efficient, solitary predator, can trigger an almost irrational urge to protect it. Your brain isn't responding to logic. It's responding to biology. Ethologists call it the baby schema, a set of visual cues evolution hardwired into humans to ensure caretaking. Large eyes relative to the face, a rounded head, a small nose, soft, non-threatening movements. When the brain detects these features, it releases caretaking impulses before conscious thought has time to intervene. Domestic cats happen to match this pattern remarkably well. So when a cat looks up at you, your brain doesn't register hunter, it registers infant. The response is automatic. Warmth, protection, attunement, a subtle pull toward responsibility that doesn't feel forced. But this goes deeper than cuteness. For many cat people, this dynamic feels safe because it's one-directional without being emotionally demanding. Care flows outward, but without expectation of constant reciprocity. The cat doesn't ask you to be cheerful. It doesn't require reassurance. It doesn't monitor your mood. This is especially resonant for people who learned to self-regulate early, people who became composed, observant, emotionally contained. For them, offering care can feel easier than receiving it. Nurturing something that doesn't intrude allows closeness without overload. Cats are masters of this balance. They accept care without entitlement. They seek closeness without consuming it. They allow intimacy without erasing autonomy. So when you feel that instinctive pull toward a cat, it isn't weakness or projection. It's an ancient biological response meeting a psychological need for safe connection. Your brain isn't being fooled. It's responding exactly as it was designed to. Before thought, before interpretation, before emotion even has a name, there is regulation. One of the most powerful tools cats use to create it is sound. A cat's purr isn't just pleasant. It operates at low rhythmic frequencies the human nervous system responds to instinctively. Before you consciously register comfort, your body begins to slow. Breathing deepens. Muscle tension softens. Stress hormones drop. This isn't imagination, it's physiology. Low-frequency, repetitive sounds signal safety to the brain. They tell the nervous system nothing urgent is required. No action, no vigilance, no response, just presence. For people who spend much of their lives anticipating, adapting, or self-monitoring, this kind of regulation is rare. Silence can feel empty. Noise can feel overwhelming. But the steady hum of a purr sits in between. It fills space without invading it. That's why many cat people describe a sense of grounding that's difficult to explain. They don't feel excited. They feel settled, as if their internal pace has finally matched the world around them. This is co-regulation without conversation, comfort without performance. And once your nervous system learns that a certain presence consistently brings it back into balance, attachment follows naturally. Not because you decided to bond, but because your body already has. There's also an uncomfortable question we can't fully ignore. What if part of your attachment isn't entirely conscious? There's a microscopic parasite called Toxoplasma gondii. It can infect most warm-blooded animals, but it can only reproduce inside cats. To survive, it has to get back there. In animals like mice, it does this by altering the brain, reducing fear, increasing attraction to cat scent, quietly steering behavior toward its own survival. Humans can carry it too. A significant portion of the population does. Most researchers agree it doesn't control complex human emotions, but it raises a deeper question.
how much of what we feel is shaped by biology? And if something makes your nervous system feel safe, does it matter where the signal originated? We're not purely rational beings, we're ecosystems, shaped by chemistry, history, instinct, and experience. So whether your bond with cats is driven by oxytocin, neural regulation, evolutionary wiring, or something microscopic, the experience remains the same. Your nervous system settles, and sometimes that's the only truth that matters. This may be why so many thinkers, writers, artists, and deeply reflective people gravitate toward cats. Not because cats make people intelligent, but because they protect the conditions intelligence needs to function. Uninterrupted attention, quiet, space. Cats don't interrupt thought, they coexist alongside it. They don't pull attention outward, they allow it to deepen. In a culture that treats solitude as something to fix, cats quietly validate something rare. The right to live at your own internal pace, to think slowly, to feel deeply, to exist without constant commentary. So maybe this was never really about cats. Maybe it was about the kind of nervous system you have and the kind of world it feels safest in. If you're drawn to cats, it doesn't mean you're cold, distant, or disconnected. It means you're wired for subtlety, for presence without pressure, for connection that doesn't demand constant output. Cats don't ask you to perform. They don't confuse intensity with intimacy. They simply exist with you. And for some people, that quiet companionship is exactly what allows them to feel human again. So if any part of this made you feel seen, if it put words to something you've always sensed but never fully understood, you're not alone. This channel is for people who experience the world deeply and quietly. And if this resonated with you, tell me in the comments, what do cats give you that the world often doesn't?